Brawlers are formidable fighters whose bold maneuvers can topple their foes and safeguard their allies. They're aggressive melee fighters who wield a unique resource called Mettle to maximize their damage and fuel their most powerful skills. Although their offensive capacities truly do shine in one-to-one combat or, single player combat, they are not without recourse when faced with multiple enemies. And Fellowship's Brawler's abrasive nature helps them hold the ire of their foes and keep their allies safe. TLDR, Brawlers use their fists to smash skulls. Brawlers are actually a newer class. They're not the newest, but they are relatively newer, and they pretty much are a damage or tank-based class, even though in the game they are labeled as offensive/defensive. They can do either or, but in LOTR Wiki, and I would tend to agree with this, it pretty much means that they can be a tank or just do like massive damage or DPS. While a lot of the class is very much like single target attacking, they definitely don't have like that many AoE abilities. They do have a good chunk in my opinion, and relatively more in comparison to some of the other melee classes, that is anyway. But just in general, they are definitely going to do more damage towards one singular opponent in comparison to multiple. So that's something that kind of differentiates them from champions, because champions have a lot of like melee AoE abilities and brawlers are very much like a single target. So just keep that in mind. While I kind of explained Brawler to you already, they definitely are a good class for soloing. You can definitely raid with them as well. I will be honest with you though, I don't really see many Brawler tanks in raiding, but I could be completely wrong as to maybe they're used more often than I think. But just in comparison to some of the other classes that can be offhand tanks like wardens, champions, I've definitely seen captains tank. I definitely feel that there are a few more classes I would personally put ahead of Brawler when it comes to tanking. The Brawler class is inspired by Helm Hammerhand, who bravely went into battle with his bare fists and kicked some butt. Let me tell you that. While I have already kind of gone into a description of the class and what you can expect from it, I do also want to give you that heads up that there is a unique feature, or I guess skill or resource, that Brawlers do pull from. This is called Mettle. So Mettle is essentially like almost like building up of an energy source is kind of how I think of it, and that energy source is Mettle. So it pretty much means that when you utilize skills, certain skills that you use will give you Mettle. Mettle in turn will allow you access into other skills. Like it allows you to, I guess, have like a certain Mettle level to utilize some of the higher damaging skills, and just in general, Mettle will allow you to do more damage for enemies going forward depending on how the Mettle like ranking goes. I almost think of this sort of like rage in a way, because when you're in a battle, or at least I'm assuming when you're kind of going off on someone, that you're probably gonna do like a few blows or whatnot, but like in the heat of battle, how like tensions rise, like your blood gets pumping and all of that stuff, adrenaline. I almost think of it kind of like adrenaline, or almost like a rage, where the more your brawler is hitting things, the more likely they are to, I guess, like have better, more damaging kind of skills from what is being, I guess, categorized and leveled by Mettle. So just in general, the Brawler has Mettle, and Mettle is sort of a way or another thing that you have to keep in mind for how you're going to utilize your skills, because it allows you to do more damage just in general, but it also will allow you to get access into some of those higher damage hitting type of abilities. Something also noteworthy about Brawler is that in the game they are labeled under advanced. Now I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't really agree with this. I think they're definitely more of a moderate class. I don't think it takes too much difficulty to learn them, and I just overall believe that with Brawler it is very similar to Guardian in a lot of ways. It's just that you don't have as many taunts and you don't really have as much defense or block rating in comparison to a Guardian. So it is a little bit, I'd almost say Guardians are probably going to just be a better, well-rounded class for you if you prefer something that's more tanky, because Brawlers don't really offer as much of a tanking ability. But I think overall, if you were to compare both of them, I definitely could see someone enjoying Brawler more if they want I guess, like more damage to their opponents in a faster rate in comparison to Guardians, where if you're just doing a shield and a one-handed sword, it might take you a little longer to get through some of your foes. But overall, both can do really good damage. I know Guardians, they do great with a two-handed weapon, so keep that in mind too, but that I'll cover later in that guide. I think for Brawlers, you really shouldn't knock on them or, not want to try the class out. I just will say for rating purposes, I could definitely see them not being as needed in comparison to some of the other classes when it comes down to offhand tanking or just doing damage. But that could totally be incorrect, and maybe they're great for raiding. It just kind of depends on your raid group as well, so don't take everything I say to heart. It's just going based off of what I've noticed in the game. But do you, if you can find a raid group that allows you to do whatever you'd like and be your brawler self, do it. In regards to what races are allowed to be a brawler, the current races that are available to play brawler are dwarf, elf, high elf, hobbit, man, river hobbit, and a stout axe dwarf. So it's pretty much all of the races that are able to be a brawler. You definitely don't have limitations there at all. When it comes down to the best race to play a particular class or brawler here, I do want to just mention yet again that I don't think that it really matters too much on your race or class combo. It really doesn't give you too much of a benefit to pick a particular one unless you're really looking for just any little bit of advantage on your stats that you can possibly get. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't have to particularly be these races that I'm going to list, but if you would like the best benefit, then I definitely recommend that you play a man brawler. The reason why is because there is a bonus of might that goes while you level, so you can actually get a max boost in might. At max level it can go up to 1500, and then they also have high ratings that go when you level as well on evasion, parry, and block. So those are definitely going to be things that you encounter as a brawler. Evading is going to be very, very necessary. Evasion is going to be something that you're really going to count on as a brawler. And I will definitely say too, with the race of man, you also get an incoming healing bonus of 5% as well as one of your passive abilities. And then on top of that, with your other racial bonuses that you can get for the man race, you can also get a +1 boost on the confidence virtue, which is a virtue that I do believe that you should have slotted in as a brawler, as the stats on that are very important for your class. So speaking in terms of virtues for brawler, here are the virtues that I would just personally recommend you take a look at when you play a brawler. The first one I'm going to mention here is wit, which I pretty much mention wit for every class, and I'm going to emphasize that it's even more critical for brawlers. So something that you kind of want to keep in mind looking at your character sheet, which you can examine if you press the C as in character on your keyboard. You can actually look at your stats here. Something I will definitely tell you right off the bat is that this is definitely going to be a physical mastery based class, which increases your melee and range damage, but melee is your primary focus of damage. So physical mastery is great. Physical mitigation as well, since you will be doing more hand-to-hand or, close, very close combat in that regard. So I would definitely recommend physical mitigation as well as a stat to keep an eye out for. Might is great for this as well because it increases physical mastery, outgoing healing, critical rating, physical mitigation, tactical mitigation, evasion, and parry, which is pretty much all of those you're going to want to focus on. Brawler, definitely all about that physical mastery, physical mitigation, crit rating can't hurt for you. Definitely evasion and parrying as well are super, super vital. So just kind of keep that in mind, physical mastery. And I also will note as well, finesse is going to be very important too, because that reduces your opponent's block, parry, and evasion and resistance, which means that when you go to hit them, they shouldn't be sliding to the left acting like they didn't get hit. So super important that we have finesse. I would definitely highlight physical mastery, physical mitigation, and finesse as kind of like your top things that you want to keep in mind. Might is also included within that list as well. So kind of just to keep those noted. In terms of wit, though, it does have finesse, critical, and physical mastery ratings. Tactical as well, which isn't, something that you're going to utilize much as a brawler, but still, it's just very vital for the finesse, the crit, and the physical mastery aspects of it. The next virtue I would recommend would probably be Valor, because that has a high physical mastery rating. There's also finesse and crit attached to it, which critical rating can't hurt you too bad as a brawler at all. But it's something that I just personally don't focus on much on my brawlers, but I know other people that do. The next virtue I'd recommend as well is Confidence, because Confidence has crit rating, finesse, and evasion. The real reason why I try to focus Confidence mostly is for the evasion, more finesse. And plus they do have the passive bonuses as well for physical and tactical mastery, which, all of your virtues, for the most part, some of them offer you a passive bonus. You just have to make sure that, you have the virtues sort of started and past level 0, unlike I have. But, if you don't even slot them in, these passive bonuses will still boost up your character to some extent. So it's good to always kind of work on your virtues. But yeah, so the 3 virtues, just to recap right now, I would say as most important would be Wit, Valor, and Confidence. The next would be Zeal, because this one has Might. This is the only virtue that has Might. And then there's Physical Mastery rating there as well again, and Crit. So definitely good. Now for the last one, I would definitely mention you can kind of change your mind on the last virtue. I'm pretty flexible with whatever I do for my 5th one. I want to personally go more towards Charity on this brawler, because there's resistance rating, which I don't have much of on my brawler, which is important, because if you're going to get hit with like a wound or disease or something that's going to affect you almost over time, most of the time, like damage over time, I would prefer not to even deal with that, but you're probably going to be in close combat, and it's more likely to happen with some of the abilities that some of the mobs have. So keep that in mind. I'm going Charity mostly for the resistance, physical mitigation, so the other enemies are less likely to hit me as hard in melee combat, and I'm, going fist to fist with others, so that helps me out a lot. And then Vitality, which refers to your morale. You can't go wrong with having more morale. So those are just sort of the traits I've picked. I would definitely recommend you look at having Wit, Valor, Confidence, Zeal, and Charity as your virtues. Charity, though, I would definitely try to, you can kind of try out a few different things. If you don't want to do Charity, that's fine. You can even do Loyalty, which will increase your vitality and your morale there and give you more armor value, which might actually be a better option depending on what you're looking for in your brawler. So definitely, for sure, the 4 I would highly recommend is Zeal, Wit, Valor, Confidence, and the 5th one you can kind of do whatever. I just did Charity. But I just want to make that as clear as possible for y'all. Zeal, Wit, Valor, Confidence. Those are great for you. In terms of the different class trait lines that brawlers can have, there is the blue line, which is pretty much like their defensive line. So the blue line is called the Fulcrum. It focuses on steadfast defense. This pretty much means that this is the class trait tree that you're going to want to focus on, because you want to tank. So this is good if you want to be an offhand tank in a raid, if you just want to, have more defensive or armor value in that regard, or just ways that you can take more punches. This is going to be the class trait tree for you. The second one is the Maelstrom, which focuses on powerful offensive strikes. This is pretty much you doing more damage and just overall having a higher melee damage level for you. There are some really cool effects here, and I do typically have a red line brawler over a blue line, but I pretty much run with both. It just depends on which case scenario I'm in. And then of course the final class trait tree is the Fundament, which has useful traits for both of these class trait trees, so the Fulcrum and the Maelstrom. So pretty much what this third line is, and something you'll see in some other classes in the future, is that these classes that do not have an actual like third trait tree line, it pretty much will integrate, and the third line, typically the yellow line, will show or at least give you skills that can apply useful into whichever of the other 2 class trait trees you go into. Typically this means that you're only going to be spending 1 trait tree point on the yellow line, which is honestly a really good thing, because it means that you can kind of focus on getting whichever line you want to choose maxed out, and then the yellow line just kind of almost gives you like other buffs to whichever line you're picking. To explain it as easily as possible, yellow line kind of just works together to pretty much increase or better off your skills, and either the blue line or the red line, it just depends on which one you pick. So I've definitely gone more with a red line approach in my brawler. And like I mentioned, this is sort of like the damage class trait tree for sure. The blue, yellow, or even the red, all three can have good things for you as a single player going through casually enjoying the game, or even as a raider. But if you are someone who wants to do more group content or raiding, I definitely know that more people utilize blue line to help them with the defense stuff, so then that way they can kind of be an offhand tank to some regard and at least survive longer in battle. But if you're going to go more solo, I would honestly probably go red line because it'll just get you through battles faster. The last bit of information I would like to leave you with is the weapon proficiencies for Brawler is quite simple. They only can use battle gauntlets. Battle gauntlets are literally like their fists, essentially. They are a heavy armor class, which pretty much means you can use any of the armor levels or ratings as you'd like. So definitely utilize heavy armor where you can for them. They can use medium and light as well, but heavy is definitely something you're going to want to focus more on for a brawler because they're going to be taking a lot of hits, so they need some good armor. In terms of whether or not they can utilize a shield, no, they cannot, but I think it's really cool that they can, you know, hit their fists with things. I know that the class concept might seem a little odd to some people, but it is actually a really fun class with cool animations once you get into the thick of it. So I definitely think that Brawler is a great class for single players or people looking to get more into grouping as well. But in terms of where they stand on grouping, it might be a little bit harder to get invites into raids and such with a Brawler in comparison to other offhand tanks that are available in the game currently. But that is all regarding the Brawler class. I hope you guys enjoyed and at least got some more information about the class and whether or not it's a good fit for you. Make sure you check out the rest of the class guides that I'll have listed down below, and make sure you subscribe because that helps the channel so much. I greatly appreciate it. But of course, you better stay weird, you weird weirdos.